Right. So today we have discussed about few topics from which subjects? Geography and internal security. First of all, if you look at geography, recently we have seen a devastating earthquake taking place where okay, in the Afghanistan as such. So very relevant because it is directly mentioned in your syllabus. Okay, you have geomorphology that we have discussed about. Okay, earthquakes and we have discussed about. So we can try to look at some of the important points about the earthquake. So we already have discussed in class which scale is used to measure the magnitude of earthquake. Richter scale. So Richter scale, it measures value between what to what? 0 to 10 as such. So on that basis, this earthquake is of magnitude 6.0. You also have talked about the classification of earthquake on the basis of focus, right? If focus is up to 50 kilometers, what kind of earthquake you call it? Shallow focus. So depth of the focus was how much? 8 to 10 kilometers here. So that is the magnitude. This is the depth. Yes, some basic fact. And we have discussed a point about epicenter. What is epicenter? Point lying directly above the focuses. So this is the focus, and this region is what you can call as epicenter. So epicenter was located where nearby place called as Jalalabad, near the Kunar areas and all that. So province wise, it is Kunar province near Jalalabad, Afghanistan, Pakistan border you have. And once the main earthquake occurred, after that what we are recording? Aftershocks. Okay, we try to understand how does earthquake occur or take place? Breaking of rocks. When the main rocks break, you have the intense energy that is released. After that, what happens? Rock try to adjust themselves. So during this adjustment process, also some amount of energy is released as such, and this result in the what kind of events? Aftershock. Okay, so aftershock is generally seen after the major earthquake event. Now the question is that what kind of plate interaction is taking place, because every earthquake in most of cases we have discussed is result of plate interaction, either convergence or divergence or transform plate interaction. In this case, what kind of interaction is going on? You can say it is a direct result of continent continent convergence. And we have talked about Indian plate, it is pushing toward Eurasian plate, and this side you have the Eurasian plate as well. So due to this, what is happening here? If you think, very interesting actually, here you have direct push like this, and that is why the sediments are compressed or folded, forming what? Fold mountain systems such as Himalaya. Now because Indian plate is moving like this and Eurasian plate is pushing like this, we have both things that is taking place. You have compression that is taking place, but on the western side what is going on? Kind of transform plate interaction. The plates are sliding along a common boundary. That means in Afghanistan, what do we have? Both kind of faults you will see. One fault directly related to convergence, another fault related to which kind of plate interaction? Transverse or transform plate interaction. So that is why this area, for example, this, what is showing? What is it showing? You are having transform plate interaction. So the earthquakes that occur in Afghanistan, we can say, question can be asked, it is only because of continent convergence. True or false? False statement. It also happens because of continental transform plate interaction. So nothing new. Already we have discussed the concept. Just its application we are seeing in this particular area. This same thing we have discussed. Now, if you look at, obviously, because Afghanistan economically also they are not very good, okay, in good position we can say, and that is why the human casualty is very high. And also very interesting thing we are seeing here, how in the disaster management also you see the imposition of a strict religious law has played a role, because what was the problem being faced by women here? They have complained that even when the women were buried inside somewhere debris and all that, male humanitarian workers, okay, who were rescuing or rescue worker we can say, they are not willing to touch and pull this woman because say it is haram, okay, as per the religion. So because of this, we are seeing this kind of incidences. The total number of deaths is again numbers not yet remembered, but just to understand or get idea about the significance or this intensity of earthquake. So 622 people died. Injuries, we have a lot of homes and all these things are being destroyed and all that. That is because of earthquake effect. So that's the humanitarian impact. And most interestingly, if you compare the earthquake that has taken place in Afghanistan with the last 30 years of data, what you are seeing that it is considered as what? One of the deadliest earthquake that we have recorded in 30 years. Okay, so magnitude wise, if you look, magnitude is not very high, but still damage is enormous. Why do you think It is a region. It is a fact. Huh? Preventive measure, that is one reason we can say, because you do not have building constructed under earthquake building code or seismic code, as you can say. What are the other factors? In these areas, a lot of buildings are constructed using clay. Okay, you have sand, this kind of materials and all, which are very weak in nature. And due to this, what happens? You have the high possibility for this building to fail and this building to disintegrate during the low magnitude earthquake also. Third factor is the population density in these areas are also what? Very, very high. So population factor, building factor, and lack of any seismic code being followed, these are the factors that have resulted in these earthquakes. Now, again, if you look at the rescue and relief efforts, again, this is related to the disaster management, because whenever any disaster is taking place, striking any part of the earth, you have to prepare that topic from both perspective. Phenomenal perspective, that is required in geography, and then you have what? Disaster management perspective, that is required in the GST paper, okay, where you have disaster management. So what is the challenges rescue workers and disaster management workers are facing here? First challenge is geographical difficulties, because what kind of terrain you have? This entire area is the region of high altitude mountains. So mountainous area, and in mountainous area, earthquake does not only cause shaking or the collapse of building, it also results in what? Landslide. So landslides also block the pathways, it blocks the roadways and all that, and that is other difficulty you have. So blocked road. Mobilization of rescue becomes also difficult, because first of all, Afghanistan Taliban government is not being recognized by any of the major countries. Okay, recently, except you have Russia and China, they have indicated that they are going to what? Legalize, okay, Taliban regime or accept this diplomatically. So due to this sanctions and all that, they also have very less rescue help coming from the nearby countries. Aftershocks are also taking place. For example, main shock event has occurred. People went to, rescue workers went there to rescue people, but what they are facing? Aftershock. So they are also basically interfering with the rescue work. And humanitarian aid is being supplied, because UN still is operating there. So United Nations, NGOs are there. You have country-specific places being met by countries like India, Iran, EU, and UK. So that is how rescue and relief efforts are being undertaken in Afghanistan. Now, what are the lessons that we can learn? Because in conclusion, if you have to write, suppose, an answer from earthquake perspective in disaster management or in geography also, when you are concluding, what you can use for conclusion? Either way forward or the lessons learned from the recent disaster as such. So, what are the lessons that we have learned? If possible, we have to strengthen our early warning system as such. That means what you can do? Seismic monitoring networks you can install everywhere. Again, it is very challenging, because you have to have adequate deployment of what? Capital. Okay, but Afghanistan is a poor country, so deployment of capital becomes difficult. That means they can only do if it is led by which organization? UN. Okay, UN led effort can lead to development of seismic monitoring network. Second, infrastructure should be resilient. Now see, these facts are there, you do not have to only write in the context of Afghanistan. These are some basic facts you can keep in mind, and no matter wherever you are talking about earthquake. Will they be common point or not? Even in the earthquake strikes India, you can write the same point, what we can do way forward and all that. So vulnerable geographical, especially vulnerable geographical area, you have to build resilient infrastructure. And this is a problem in India as well. If you look at Delhi, Delhi lies very close to the high intensity zone of earthquake, right? But still 60-70% of the buildings that you have in Delhi, they are not built as per the seismic building code as such. In the government buildings also, recently they have begun to renovate, modify and all that to put the concept of the seismic building code, but 60-70% building, there is a high probability if any magnitude more than 8 or 9 strike Himalayas in the Indian side, it will cause flattening up of majority of building and all. So this is something we have to do in India also. Improve access and logistic, because remote terrains become very difficult and challenging to access. So you have to ensure that you have proper way how you can enter this area. Foster international cooperation, disaster aid, integrate disaster planning in the conflict zone as such. Okay, so that is disaster. Second, we have is again a geographical phenomena about which you have the head of IMD, chief of IMD. What is IMD? We have Indian Meteorological Department. So Indian Meteorological Department, its chief has this recently stated that we are seeing a rising trend of mini cloudbursts in India. And that is the statement which he has given. We are seeing a rise in the trends of mini cloudbursts all across India. So this is what we have to understand. First of all, cloudburst already we have discussed. How will you define cloudburst? There is a proper numerical measure for it. What is cloudburst? You have more than equal to 10 millimeter of rain per hour. Okay. Mini cloudburst are, here we have, sorry, 10 centimeter, not 10 millimeter. Mini cloudburst is what? More than equal to 5 centimeters of rain per hour. Over what region? Area of 20 to 30 square kilometers. Definition becomes very important. In prelims, they are asking this kind of question these days. Okay, so mini cloudburst refer to if in any area which is about 20 to 30 square kilometer in area receives more than equal to 5 centimeter of rain per hour, we call it mini cloudburst. Now, if question is asked about whether large cloudburst, that is when you are defining it as more than equal to 10 centimeter per hour, is there any change in trend? Why he has to clarify it? Because a lot of scientists were talking about this, that due to the climate change, global warming and its effect, we are seeing increased cases of cloudburst in India. So he has negated it. What he has stated that it is not correct. Large cloudburst, which we define like this, their number has not increased. What has increased indeed is the number of mini cloudburst. So it is in this context we have to understand this. Okay, he has negated the viewpoint of many scientists, especially who are talking about the climate change and effect. And the frequency also has increased. Okay, same thing, number and frequency of mini cloudburst. So we have to look at the definition first of all. Second, no, it is there. Okay, it is there. It's not IMD's classification. Mini cloudburst was used in US also. Okay, you have the United States NOAA. Anyway, cloudburst definition is same everywhere. 10 centimeter per hour. Cloudburst, if you have less than equal, greater than equal to 5 centimeter per hour, but less than 10, it is mini cloudburst. So NOAA, it uses this classification in the cyclonic sense whenever you have cyclone-based rainfall also. Now, in characteristic, what we can write? First of all, mini cloudburst is highly localized, and second, it is short-lived. Cloudburst always will be short-lived because if you apply the concept, we have discussed about a rainfall. Which kind of rainfall? Orographic rainfall. So in orographic rainfall, we have discussed if the winds, warm and moist wind especially, are striking a steep mountain slope, what will happen to them? They will rise very significantly. Okay, they rise very fast. If they're rising very fast, condensation will be rapid. Condensation is rapid. You have dense, tall, towering cumulonimbus clouds, and whatever water vapor they have, it will condense at fast rate, come down also at the fast rate. So they cannot be, what I can say, long lived, right? Because all the water will fall at a very short rate. So localized 20-30 kilometers, hard to predict, and now casting only that is possible. That means once mini cloudburst start, then only you can predict it. Okay, that such amount of rainfall we can witness based on the idea of cloud density and all this. Many time what happens? It goes unrecorded because monitoring is very limited. Why monitoring is very limited? Because the weather monitoring stations that we have, they generally are scattered across large areas. So mini cloudburst is taking place over which region? 20 to 30 square kilometers. So neither this weather station will record it nor this weather station is recorded. On the other hand, if you have large cloudburst, what will happen? They are spanning over much more larger area. That means the probability is high. It will be recorded by any of the weather stations. That means if someone asks you in what way we can increase the predictability of mini cloudburst, we can say we have to increase the number of weather stations. Okay, especially in the vulnerable area. In India, what are the regions where you can expect cloudburst to take place? Where wind can rise fast. Where wind can rise fast? Western Ghat is one, okay, obviously from the west. Where else? In the Himalayas. So at least in these areas, the IMD is talking about increasing the number of stations. Affected region in this case of cloudburst is largely, we have discussed, Himalayan state like such as Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Jammu Kashmir, like Ladakh and all these places. And mini cloudburst also we have seen recently in the urban areas. Right, in August itself, we have mini cloudburst like event in which state? Which city? Chennai. Okay, before that we had in Mumbai. Before that we had in Delhi and NCR. Now, if I ask you, do we have any mountain around Chennai? No. Okay, large mountain, large hill do not have. So why cloudburst is taking place here? Because of increased heat. So cloudburst to occur, it is not only required that wind should rise up because of the presence of orographic mountain barrier. It can also rise fast, in which case, if at the surface temperature becomes extremely high. So if a strongly high temperature you have on the ground, that means what we can say? Convection, if I ask you, convection will be a strong or weak? A strong convection. So convection current is very strong. Convection current is the one that is pushing the entire water vapor from the surface in the toward the upper atmosphere. So due to strong convection, the water vapor will move at very fast rate. And here also what we can expect, condensation will happen at very fast rate, resulting into which cloud formation? Cumulonimbus cloud. And from cumulonimbus cloud, what you can expect? Such kind of heavy amount of rainfall in short span of time. That is why in urban areas, if someone asks you, what is the reason behind increased frequency of cloud burst? Here we can say that to some extent, what is responsible here? Global warming. Okay, average temperature is rising. Plus one other concept we have discussed in urban areas, again related to albedo. What is the concept? Urban heat island. Urban areas relatively always have higher temperature as compared to the surrounding area, because urban areas have lower albedo. Okay, lower albedo. That is why temperature is highest. And this already I discussed orographic influence zone that we have. Now see, one very interesting thing is, if you look at the geography of Himalayas, like this is suppose Himalayas from northeast, this is the western part, this is the Himalayas. So here for example, what do we have? Jammu and Kashmir. Here we have Himachal Pradesh. Here we have Uttarakhand. So what actually happens is that you have wind coming from both sides sometimes. Like you have one part of wind or one parcel of wind, you can say, originate from which region? Bay of Bengal. And from this side, you have the cyclones that are being brought from the western disturbances, westerlies wind, originating from Mediterranean Sea as such. Many times what happens? They come at two different times. So at any given point of time, in this Himalayan state, either it will have rainfall because of this branch, or it will have rainfall because of this branch. Sometimes what happens? The timing converges. That means both branch are coming and joining together, merging together at the same time. So if both branch are bringing such a huge amount of water vapor as they join together, suddenly what you will have? Increase in the amount of water vapor. And all this water vapor rises along the orographic slope of Himalayas. That does also result in what? Very heavy amount of rainfall. Okay, so convergence. In this case, what we have seen is convergence of both these branches. The Bay of Bengal branch and the branch coming from Mediterranean Sea, both have joined together, converged together, causing heavy rainfall. That is also we have to. Impact wise, again, cloud bursts generally always result in which kind of flood? Flash flood is a term that we use when you have within few minutes, okay, within a flash, we have the floods in the hilly areas, and because it is hill, floods will result also into what? Landslides. Okay, and recently, yesterday, we have seen a video in the Himachal Pradesh. You have a road construction that is going on. Okay, and in hills, how you develop the road? For example, this is the hill, so you do the cutting. The roads are like what? Something like this. Okay, it is going like this. So what happened at this place? You have a JCB worker who is working here, and due to the landslides, what happened? The entire road on which he was working, it collapsed. So he fell down along with his entire JCB in this valley. That is because of what? The collapse of infrastructure resulting due to rainfall. Rainfall will make the soil particles, sediment particle more soluble. So there will be weakening of the crust. And as the crust weaken, the road that you have made on it will also become what? Vulnerable to break, vulnerable to collapse. That is the thing. Plus, in these regions also we know that in Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, we have wheat cropping that is done. So due to rainfall, what will happen? Crop damage, loss of property. Okay, there is large scale fatalities that we are seeing here. And government warning system is also under pressure, because suddenly in many areas we are having such kind of phenomena. That is now broader monsoon scenario. We have discussed about that. Okay, in Uttarakhand we have flash flood. On August 5 we have seen here. IMD already had forecasted heavy rain triggered event. That is because of which region? Again remember, convergence of the both wind. Westerlies wind from the west, and you have the branch coming from Bay of Bengal. Same thing we have discussed that. Way forward is again what we can do. As many cloudburst events are difficult to, what I can say, explain because of the lower number of weather stations. So real-time radar numbers should be increased. Doppler networks are there; their number should be increased. Local level hazard awareness should be there. Right? Investment in satellite-based micro-scale prediction. Basically, we have to increase the this efficiency of satellite and all that, efficacy of satellite. Integrate urban infrastructure resilience and all that. Plus bridge data gaps in the remote regions. These are some points we can write as a way forward. Again, from the disaster management perspective. So you can read in the document that is given. So same thing again is the overall summary. Now third topic that is news is called as dongar. Okay, dongar cultivation. Dongar cultivation. That is a traditional practice in the eastern state of Odisha. That was in news because the extent to which dongar cultivation was carried out earlier, this number or this area is shrinking. Area under dongar cultivation is shrinking. And that is why we are calling it that this entire cultivation seems to be present or in. So, what is dongar cultivation? Why it is in danger, and what is the threats that is causing dongar cultivation to decline? That is what we have to study here. Now, first of all, to understand the term dongar in simplest way, this is referred as cultivation done in the upland areas. For example, if you have hills, Eastern Ghat is there in the Odisha. So along the hill slopes, what you do? Cropping. So cropping that is done along the higher hill slopes, what do you call it? Dongar. So in simplest way, you can say such kind of cropping which is carried out along the hill slope of Eastern Ghats in Odisha. And the practice is, what kind of crop practice? Mixed cropping. What is mixed cropping? At the same point in time, you are growing different type of crop as such. Okay, you can grow millets, for example, right? You can grow pulses. Here it is given. Okay, in this case, in the same parcel of land, at the same time, you grow millets, pulses. Okay, you also have oil seeds, you have wild tuber crops. Okay, that is known. Right. So basically, what I'm saying, that climate resilient in nature. Second, also affect this. right? So we were discussing about what dongar cultivation. Okay, so briefly again, if you revise, if mic was not clear, in that case, what is dongar cultivation? Briefly, if you summarize it, what we have discussed, such kind of cultivation which is carried out in the eastern ghats of Odisha. Where is it carried out? On the slopes of hills. Okay, and what kind of cropping we do here? Mixed cropping. That means at any given point of time in the same parts of land, like for example, here we are growing millets. Okay, here we are growing what, oil seeds. Here we are growing, for example, pulses and all that. So this kind of cropping is considered as climate resilient because the demand of the crops are different. Okay, so even if one crop fails, other crop will be able to sustain the livelihood of people who are involved here. So that is the brief introduction about Dogon cultivation. Now, okay, this overall, this is very long cultural practices, not something that people are doing in the recent times. Tribals have been living there for hundreds and hundreds of years, and Dogon cultivation has been a prevalent practice of cultivation in this particular area. What is the name of tribe we have discussed? Gond tribe. Okay, so names of tribe also become important if any tribe is in use. UPSC in prelims generally asks question about that. Okay, I think few years back they have asked about a question from the tribes that reside in the Odisha. Okay, they asked that language based question, that Kui language or Kui was a term recently seen in news. What does Kui refer to? So Kui was nothing but a language spoken by the tribes of Eastern Ghats as such. So that is why, okay, we have to keep in mind the name of tribe. Now the question comes that why suddenly we have seen a decline in the dongar cultivation. The culprit here is what? Eucalyptus. Okay, eucalyptus is a tree. Eucalyptus is very also invasive species. In Australia, if you go back in 18th century, you have maybe 10-20% of Australia covered under eucalyptus. Today, 90% of Australia is covered with eucalyptus. Okay, because Australia population density is very low. The interference of human is very less. So once trees start to grow and develop, they start to spread at a very fast rate. Okay, but here in this case, in case of India, what we are doing? We are deliberately trying to plant eucalyptus in those area where dongar cultivation was carried out. So why? What is the reason behind the preference given to eucalyptus? Okay, the wood of this plant and this tree is used for paper manufacturing as such. Okay, and that is why there is a huge demand. So paper manufacturing, initially it was only done in lowland area, that means in the plain areas. Then it began to spread in the midland area, and now even they are being spread in the upland part. Okay, that means we can say its growth is seen like this. Earlier in this region, then it started to grow here, and then it started to grow here as such. And here, what was the traditional practice? Dongar. So once it start to grow here, okay, people started to use these areas for the growth of eucalyptus. What would you see? Decline in the traditional dongar cultivation practices. So paper mills, development of paper mills, yeah, that is why. But the problem is that even if eucalyptus is grown here, if tribal community was able to reap benefit from it, it would have been, okay, understandable. But the problem is that the people here, for example, the paper mills here, they are taking land from tribals at very cheap prices, throwaway prices, we can say. They are giving them how much amount of money? 1500, 3000 rupees for every acre of land. That is annual payment. Okay, every year tribals get only 1500, 3000 rupees for 1 acre of land. And imagine how much profit they are making as such. So we also not seeing profit being transferred to tribes. That means we can say two things are taking place. One, tribals are losing their own way of life, right? And second, it is not resulting in their overall social or economic upliftment. They still are what? Laden by debt. Okay, there's still what I can say rampant poverty is seen in those areas. That is the problem. Traditional crops we have discussed, yeah, millet and all, that is grown here. Plus, ecological impact is also there. It is not only the tribal way of life that is being impacted. If you are growing only one type of crop, that is eucalyptus in this case, what will happen? Soil will become more infertile. Why? Because same kind of crop if you are growing, it will take same kind of nutrient. So if you have nitrogen, phosphorus that is required for eucalyptus, its concentration will keep on depleting as such. If you are using mixed cropping, there is a benefit. Rice takes up nitrogen from the soil, but if you are cultivating pulses, there pulses fix nitrogen by taking from the atmosphere, fixing it to the roots. That means nitrogen that was depleted due to rice uptake, that is being again put back by the pulse as such. Here what will happen? It will keep on taking all the nutrients as such. So you'll have to depend on artificial fertilizer like synthetic fertilizers, chemical fertilizers, all we can. Plus, eucalyptus require huge volume of water, and also not only in the growth of eucalyptus. If you talk about paper and pulp industry, it is considered as one of the most water inefficient industry as such. Water inefficient means it requires very huge volume of water for produce 1 kilogram or 1 ton of paper as such. So in both cases, for the growth of eucalyptus as well as in the paper industry, large volume of water is being used here. So that is why the region also faces which problem? Water scarcity. Third, what do we have? Birds that used to thrive in these areas, they are also now migrating, okay, because of the eucalyptus plantation. That is the ecological impact. Food security will obviously, same thing we have discussed, will be impacted because uncultivated foods earlier, what you had? Food crops were being cultivated here. Now people obviously they cannot eat eucalyptus plant. Okay, so the area where they used to grow food for their sustenance, they have lost that area. Second, nutrition decline we are seeing there because tribals were dependent on millets, they're dependent on pulses from which they used to get protein and all that. Now that sources is no longer available, so nutrient inefficient, this malnutrition, undernutrition, these are the things we'll see in the tribal community. Diversity of millets has reduced, and overall, what I can say, food sovereignty seems to be at risk in this particular case. So, what is the step taken by government? Government still is not interfering or has not taken any strong action here. But overall, we are seeing the involvement of NGOs, such as Living Farms NGO. They have begun to work in more than 200 villages, and they are trying to target the communities, tribal communities. Konds are divided into various clans. For example, you have Talia Kond, Kutia Kond, and all that. So they are trying to make them aware that why you should not what leave your traditional method of dongar cultivation. What are the disadvantages that you are facing, and that is why they have begun to again what put effort on what revival of the dongar cultivation. So one way how you can do revival is you focus on awareness drive. So what they are focusing upon, first of all, awareness drive toward tribals. Okay. They are trying to explain to tribals that why they should not give their land at cheap prices, how it is bad for them both economically, financially, as well as from the food security perspective as well. Second, they are also trying to put this message across the government departments that you are what compromising with the climate resilience pattern of agriculture here, right? Third, what they are saying, seed conservation. Fourth, what they are saying is okay, organic practices. For example, you talk about the millet farming that is done in rover cultivation. Tribals do not use large scale chemical fertilizers. They still use the nutrition present in the soil itself, and they use, for example, compost, vermicompost you have. For example, cattle dung that is being used as a organic manure and all that. So, what kind of farming they are practicing? Organic farming. That means the quality or the contamination in the food will be relatively less. Okay, that is why today if you look at organic tomato, okay, see, okay, tomato that is being sold, that is sold at the premium prices compared to chemical fertilizer based tomatoes and all that. So demand of organic farming is rising, and maybe in the future tribals could have used this for their own benefit. Okay, they could have sold the commodities at a higher price and all that. They are at risk of that. Plus, if donor cultivation is being lost, they can say it will also lead to what loss of traditional knowledge and traditional practices. Okay, and that is something which is a common trend not only in the Odisha but in different regions of India as well. Similar, seed conservation means if you are using millets, if you are cultivating millets, you are taking up seeds, you are using this again. You are having seed, you are using it. What you are doing? You are conserving seeds. You are using the same seed, like basically seed of the same plant again. Suppose that you are not cultivating millets anymore. You do not have any what I can say this incentive to conserve and save the seeds. That means what will happen? The domestic seeds that you have of genetic variety, it will be lost permanently. After suppose 50 years again, if someone come, government makes a policy that you want to cultivate millets here. Will the original millet seeds available here? No. So they will have to bring what? Some genetically modified seed or seeds from outside of the India and all that. That is what seed conservation is. Domestic genes, domestic genetics of the seeds cannot be conserved anymore because we have lost the farming practice. If you try to understand about the Madhya Pradesh, similar kind of practice in MP is referred by what term? Beaver. Okay, again, this is very important to prelims perspective. In prelims, they have asked question like this. Okay, water, this conservation practices. Water conservation that you do in different states, they are known by different names as such. The same kind of question again can be framed here. So in Odisha, similar kind of cultivation you call as dongar. In MP, what do you call it? Bevar. Okay, in the Western Ghats, term that is used is Poonam Krishi. Okay, in South India, we have Kodu as such. So it is similar to parallel to what you can call as dongar cultivation as such in preservation of the systems or traditional systems and all that. Several such systems are there also being followed in different areas that is being used by FAO to give status that we call it GIHS status, that is globally important agricultural heritage system as such. So many cultural practices, traditional practices are given this particular status, but if suppose it is lost, what will happen? You lose your tradition, you lose your culture and the benefits that it provide to you. These are the names we can say. Also, one thing we have to keep in mind that here one term is used. You might be familiar with this term that is used here is what? Shifting cultivation. What is shifting cultivation? Heard of this term before or not? Shifting cultivation, also called as slash and burn cultivation. Also called as in eastern India, it is called as zoom cultivation. What is this cultivation? That means you grow crop in certain. We have discussed what kind of practice they have. Organic farming. That means they are not using any artificial synthetic fertilizer such. So if you are growing crop in the same parcel of land, after a few years, what will happen? You lose all the nutrition. That means you cannot cultivate in the same parcel of land. So far, this tribals used to move to different area. They do the cultivation and they leave these areas fallow. Okay, and they cut the plants, trees here, burn it, and spread the ashes here, so the nutrients can be added to this plant. A nutrient can be added to the soil as such. After 3-4 years, what will happen? Again, nutrients can be recycled back in the soil. So again, they will come back after several years. They are moving from one parcel land to other parcel land. That is what we're calling it. Shifting cultivation. Cultivation is not permanently in one parcel land. So that is third or the next topic we have is related to fourth topic is Byas River. Okay, Byas River is a tributary of which river system? Indus. Okay, if you draw example, you have Indus. Indus is the major river, main river originating from Mount Kailash. Mount Kailash. From Mount Kailash, you have the origin of river Indus. After this, it enters India, then enters Pakistan, and then it receives 5 tributaries in its course. What are these 5 tributaries? Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Byas, and Satluj. Okay, first is which one? Jhelum. Then you have Jhelum, you have Chenab, you have Ravi. This is a small river in Himachal Pradesh called as Byas, and this is Satluj. So first thing we have to understand that out of the 5 rivers, Byas is the only river that is completely within which territory? Indian territory. Okay, it lies complete within India. It does not enter in Pakistan as such. Byas meets which river? Satluj river. In which state? Punjab. And after that, it is the Satluj that carries water further in Pakistan as such. Okay, so 5 tributaries of river Indus, and one of the tributary that we have is Byas. And about this river is what we have to talk today. So the river was in news because what we have recorded is suddenly high inflow of water in the Byas. Why there will be sudden inflow of water in the Byas river? You have constructed here what? Dam. So if you constructed a dam, you are controlling the flow of water in the river. You have dam, this side you have river. Certain volume of water is flowing here. Suddenly if you open the dam gate, what will happen? All the water will start to flow in the river. So this sudden inflow that you are seeing the term here is because of what we can say? Release of water. Release of water by dam. Which dam? Pong Dam. Okay, Pong is the name of dam over Byas River. And nearby on Satluj you have Bhakra River. Bhakra Dam. So again, the data are not very important, but overall this gives you idea. 11.70 BCM of inflow was recorded in Byas. BCM means billion cubic meter of water. Okay, and if you try to understand this, basically what is BCM means? Suppose that you are having a cube of water. This is one what? Cube. What is the dimension of cube? 1 meter. So all the sides are of 1 meter. This is 1 meter cube, you can say. How many such cubes you have? Billion. How many billions? Right. So you can imagine that you have stacked up almost 12, we can say 12 such kind of 12 billions of such kind of cube entirely filled up with what? Water. So 12 billion cubic meter of water you have, and that is suddenly flowing in the river Byas. So it is 20% higher than the flow we have recorded in the year 2023. Okay, that is why we are calling it a sudden high flow. And these are again similar data we are seeing in the Pong River, Bhakra River also we have the release of water. And in this context, the opposition party, especially politicians, were alleging that there were mismanagement in the way how dam was discharged or dam or these gates were open and all that. And the justification has come from the committee that basically manages the water in the Bhakra River, Bhakra Dam and Byas, Byas River, that is Bhakra Byas Management Board, it is called as. So BBMB has stated that management was as per the direction given, as far as the direction, this what you can say, control of dam is concerned. You have a rule that is called as rule curve. Rule curve guides you how and when you can release water in the dam as such. So BBMB is saying that we have followed the rule curve. We have not discharged water more than what was required or what was needed. Because suppose that if you have a dam and if you do not release the water, what is the effect? If you do not open the dam gates, what will happen? If water level is rising up due to rainfall and all that, you will have floods in the nearby areas. And also due to this, what will happen? You will have overspill and all that you see. So that is why they have to release the dam gates. But what are the opposition members and other members are saying here? That the reason why they had to open the gate is because they have not carried out which activity? Desilting. Okay, desilting activities. Because if river is continuously coming, imagine this is a dam, river is continuously coming. River is carrying itself what? Sediments. So sediments will keep on what? Settling at the bottom of dam. So over a period of time, we can say what will happen? Depth of this sediment or overall deposition of this sediment will keep on happening here. So this entire lower part of dam, what will happen to it? It will be silted. That means the capacity of reservoir will reduce. And that is why if capacity of reservoir is reduced, you have to frequently open the gates because capacity has reduced as such. So that is what they are claiming, that BBMB has not carried out periodic desilting. Again, BBMB is saying that why we have not carried out this? Because they have to take permission from the state government. The state government of Himachal Pradesh did not give, no, sorry, the state government of Himachal Pradesh did not give them permission as such. So these are the political games that we are seeing being played here. But overall, the essence from geographical perspective is sudden release of water more than 20%, that is generally done here. Now, because of this, what will happen? If you're releasing water suddenly in high volume, whatever rivers, the villages that you have near the river banks, what will happen to them? They will be affected by floods. Okay, as so you have flooded village. Then what else you have? The regions such as Ropar, Mansa, okay, Aznala. These are the regions that will be affected here. Okay, what we have seen, this is the Byas river. Now Byas river, because it is carrying a lot of sediments, what will happen to it? Sediments will be accumulated near both of the banks as such. Because sediment is accumulating near the banks, what will happen? It will act as, okay, let us look at this. This is the river here. This side, what do we have? Bank, and sediments are depositing. So what it creates? Kind of natural barrier. That means next time if flood occurs, the flood will have to bypass this barrier as such. So due to this, what happens? Okay, this act as a protective flood protection barrier as such, but because of suddenly heavy amount of water, water pressure has become extremely high. So they have burst through and broken through the embankments in this area. So breaches in the Byas embankment we have seen, again why? Because of sudden release of water. Okay, that is what you are saying. So these are the regions like Hoshiarpur district, we are seeing the effect here. These are the numbers like 3 lakh acres of land were submerged. Okay, 125,000 acres of 125,000 residents have been affected due to this flood-like tendency and this flood-like situation and all that. And many part of Punjab in the India also, eastern Pakistan also, we have seen evacuation operation that has to be carried out. Now, apart from this, there are some other regions being given here that is responsible for this kind of disaster. What is the region? Illegal mining that is being carried out. So illegal river mining, and if the illegal river mining is carried out, what will happen? Embankment strength will reduce because embankments are made up of sediment as such. So due to this, embankment strength reduces. That means embankment will be more prone to failure. Okay, and that is why flood on all these things. Affected rivers we have is Satluj, Byas, Ravi, and Ghaggar river. Okay, impact we have seen is deeper flood damage, okay, infrastructure deterioration, and all that we are seeing here. So also roads and all these things, infrastructure that you have in this area, they'll be heavily impacted. Yeah. Now, from geography perspective, we already have discussed Byas is tributary of which river? Indus river, right? And it meets Satluj. Now, where does Byas river originate from? There is a pass in Himachal Pradesh. What is the pass called as? Rohtang Pass. Okay, so Himachal Pradesh, tributary of Satluj. What are the major dams here? So we have Pandor Dam, we have Pong Dam, we have Bhakra. Bhakra is actually on the Satluj side. Conservation zone, we have Byas Conservation Reserve. largely to protect the biodiversity, aquatic diversity that you have in these rivers. And also it has been declared as, for example, where the Byas and Satluj meet. Where do they meet? Harike. So Harike is example of what kind of site? Okay, Ramsar site is a protected site. So these are some of the basic facts we can remember about it. Okay. Way forward is what? How we can ensure that we do not get caught blindly in such kind of floods. We have to have better real-time monitoring radar such. Okay, inflow gauges should be there. Plus, embankments serve as a very strong flood protection barriers. That means every now and then embankments are naturally formed due to sediment. Suppose that by intervention you make it more stronger by adding concrete, by adding cement and all that. What will happen? Even in the case of flood, even in the case of sudden water discharge, embankments can be able to hold what? Water pressure and all that. So in these areas, you will not see flood-like phenomena. Okay, so embankment is strengthening, integrity of embankment should be increased, illegal mining should be curbed. Okay, improvement of early warning system, public alert should be issued, because this we have seen in the case of Chennai also. This kind of blame was placed in year 2015. There was sudden release of water from the dam, and many of the government officials were saying that they were not informed that such kind of release is planned. Otherwise, they could have evacuated that area, people from that area. They could have relay warning in that area. So basically, what is happening? You have various different wings and administration of the government. They are not basically cooperating with each other. They are not coordinating with each other. That is something we have to avoid. And specifically, if the river is flowing through different state, we need to have proper framework to ensure what? Interstate coordination is such. Okay, so promote interstate coordination. Okay, we have to align water release, okay, conservation and ecosystem needs and all that we have to take a look at. That is about the Vyas. The last topic we have is from the internal security overall, we can say, where we are seeing for the first time Indian Navy's training squadron has reached a a country in Africa called as Seychelles. Indian Navy's first training squadron, it has reached Seychelles. Seychelles is an island country near Africa. Take a look at it. So first training squadron in Seychelles. So if you look at the geography, where is Seychelles located? Where it is located? We have Africa. What do we have here? Okay, Madagascar. So slightly to the north of Madagascar, you have several group of islands forming the country called as Seychelles. Seychelles, you have Mahe Island you have here actually, and the capital is called as Victoria. Okay, so this is the region we are talking about. So what actually has happened? First time, raiding a squadron consisting of 3 ships, INS Tir, INS Sardul and ICGS Sarthi. Okay, it has reached the coastline of Seychelles, the capital of Seychelles. For what purposes? Naval training of the Seychelles as such. Okay, before we also used to do that with Maldives, but in last few years, what we have seen, the relation between India and Maldives deteriorated, especially after new government came into power there. So due to this, what we have seen that India is also trying to then strengthen its relations with the neighboring countries. Okay, such as Mauritius, you have, for example, okay, you have Seychelles in the same area and all that, and this is one of the such attempt as such. A term that he uses, port call. Port call means if any ship from any other country reaches a port of third country, what do we call it? Port call. So where we have reached? Port Victoria in Seychelles, right? The third visit to Seychelles in 2025, largely for the purpose of strengthening maritime partnership. That is the we have discussed 3 ships are there. One is INS Tir. Tir is example of training vessel. Okay, you have INS Sardul, that is landing ship tank. ICGS Sarthi, that is ICGS is what? Indian Coast Guard. Okay, yesterday we have discussed about that you have what? First area 12 nautical miles. Okay, that is, then you have the 24 nautical miles. So contiguous zone, territorial sea, contiguous zone, and then we have the exclusive economic zone. So up to contiguous zone or exclusive economic zone, you have Coast Guard. Beyond EZ in the high seas, what do you have? Indian Navy. That is how we have divided the operation. And also apart from India and Seychelles, we have seen here involvement of Spanish ship, a Spanish Navy ship that is called as ESPS Navarra. So overall, what you can say, this interaction was between 3 countries: India, Seychelles, and this Spain. So that is activities and engagement. What we have done here. So we have professional exchanges, cross-deck visits. Again, these are some technical terms, not have to go in that much detail. But basically what it means, that professional exchanges, you go to Seychelles. Seychelles Navy will come to you. They will visit your ships. Okay, you will have the official exchanges and all that. Overall, you have yoga, football matches, outreach. If you look at what is the reason or rationale behind such kind of exercises, why we are participating in yoga or football matches and all that, that is okay, it is extension of soft power, we can say, and also to increase the bond between both navy as such. So for example, in the future, if both militaries or both navies in this case have to carry out a joint operation, there would not be what a kind of drift, we can say. They are really more closer to each other and culturally, all that. So shipboard community services and all that. So Seychelles Defense Forces, that is a naval force that has been involved here, and this is an example of diplomatic interactions. Diplomatic interactions and symbolism we have seen here also, because apart from naval involvement, we also have seen involvement of the ministers. Okay, like foreign ministers, you have tourism ministers, you have chief of defense forces, all they also have exchange, pilot, this, all that. So these are again basic things that is done everywhere in the ship futures. The strategic significance is what we have to focus on here. So we have discussed in last class also, the vision of India is what? Mahasagar. Okay, that means when we talk about the naval outreach, diplomatic outreach in the naval areas, it is based on mutual and holistic advancement for security and growth across region. Earlier, actually in 2016, it was called as Sagar, security and growth for all the region. Recently, we have used the term Mahasagar. So mutual and holistic advancement for security and growth all across the region. This is very important term because this you can use in several subjects. When talking about IR, when talking about security, when talking about what you can call as this defense forces and their all these kind of things. Second, India is trying to portray its image as what? Net security provider in the Indian Ocean region. What does net security provider means? That means Indian Navy is capable enough to provide security against any kind of threat. It can be in terms of maritime piracy, we can say. It can be in terms of maritime terrorism. It can be in terms of the illegal activities such as contraband trafficking and all these kind of things. So whenever any country requires, it has proved many times as well, it will be acting as a security provider. Okay, so that is how we are trying to portray our image also by going to different countries. Overall, it is approach we are seeing in the sense of consistency, and it also ensures this shows depth in the defense engagement overall. Okay, now why Seychelles? Because again, if you look at the map, where does Seychelles lie? At a very strategic location as such. Okay, because this is the region that is one of the major sea lines of communication. You have the ships coming from where? Europe. You have the ships coming from where? East Asia. Right? You have the ships coming from where? From the Americas also, passing through Atlantic Ocean and all that. So because of strategic location, and also strategic in the sense because Chinese Navy Chinese Navy have begun to what? Began to increase and assert their presence in this area. They have actually begun to develop bases in many of the countries, and the overall policy of the Chinese Navy is called as what? String of pearls. Okay, basically they are trying to develop coastal ports, either maritime port, this commercial port or defense ports all around India to kind of encircle India as such. So that is why it is very imperative for India to have its own listening stations, we can call it, to have its own ports and all that, and to have better engagement. Okay, so that it can ensure its security and all that. So Seychelles lies somewhere in the same area. That is why we are much more interested here. Overall enhancement of maritime diplomacy and regional alliance, that also can be portrayed and boosted. Right. Again, this training imperatives are there. Okay, same thing that is done whenever you have the bilateral meetings between the navies and all. Now, apart from that, if you look at the success of the maritime partnership, what we can say such kind of protocol has achieved? Can we say it has strengthened bilateral defense cooperation? Right. Port call only happens between countries which are trying to cooperate in the future, trying to have some kind of joint operation exercises also in the future as such. So it has strengthened bilateral defense cooperation. It has enhanced cadet professional development and all that, because you are also involved in training. So Indian Navy is training the Seychelles defense forces. In that way, we can say the Seychelles professionals are having enhanced development. Development means professional development, we can say. Overall, it also reinforces maritime diplomacy as such. Okay, so we can say the entire goal or objective was to build a bridge of friendship through naval cooperation and training excellence. Okay, these kind of statements that we have written here, this is how you have to frame answers when you're writing related to the defense or related to what this international relations and all that. So terms and how the structure, the questions, sorry, the statements are structured. That is what we have to focus upon. Way forward again, we can write here. Expansion of trading and deployment. Currently, we are involved in only few countries, with few countries. Okay, earlier we had Maldives. We also trying to have similar kind of relationship with Mauritius, let us say. And now we have begun to engage Seychelles as such. But one area where we have not paid proper attention is which region? East Africa. There is a huge potential there because earlier these were in the clutches of Western countries. Now, Western countries like France, Germany, we are seeing they are gradually leaving Africa, and we are seeing entry of two major countries. In commercial sphere, you have the intrusion of China. In the political military sphere, you have intrusion or entry of Russia as such. So it is in this changing geopolitical context, we also have to ensure our interest here, and we should talk with the countries on the Horn of Africa and further south to ensure that our interest is not, what you can say, threatened here, because China already has recently developed base. Which of the country? Ethiopia you have on the Horn of Africa. So India cannot be lagging behind. It has to engage Africa also, apart from engaging these island countries. That is what we're talking about. Similar kind of model can be applied to the other Indian Ocean region countries or states. We have to institutionalize naval diplomacy. It cannot be just a one or few times of effort as such. There has to be institutional mechanism through which we can conduct recurring exchanges. Okay. Example with Singapore. Okay, with Singapore, we have carried out bilateral exercises in maritime sphere for last 25 years or something like that. But similar exercises do not have with any other country apart from Singapore. We can we not extend same with other countries also? We have to do so, right? That is what we can do. Leverage maritime outreach under Mahasagar, already we have discussed. Encourage multilateral naval exercises, such as Simbex, for example, we have. Okay, so all that we can do. Strengthen naval interoperability with regional partner. Again, same thing. Okay, so these are what we can do to ensure that China is not able to threaten our interest in the Indian Ocean region. Now, if you briefly look at all the topics, the most important one is which one? Earthquake. So earthquake, what do we have? Why it is important? Because it is directly mentioned in your syllabus. Okay, in the geophysical phenomena we have discussed volcanism, earthquake, and tsunami. So what we have to understand here: concept related to earthquake, reasons behind the earthquake in this area, CC conversions, transform plate interaction we have discussed. You also have to look it from the perspective of disaster management. So both in prelims and mains, question directly based on this can be asked as such, right? Second, again, this is what very important topic related to which section? Climatology. There you have to talk about types of precipitation. So cloud burst, mini cloud burst is nothing but an example of precipitation itself, right? Plus also from disaster management perspective. Donga, not very important from mains perspective. In mains, you can use as some kind of pointer if you're writing answer related to which sector? Agriculture. Tree-based facts, as you discussed, can be asked from here. So 3 star we can give. Vyas River, again, you have to largely prepare from which perspective? Mapping based. Okay, river system you talk about, tributaries you have to talk about, names of dams you have to understand about. So mapping based question you have to prepare, plus river and tributary based question. And last what do we have is Seychelles. Okay, Seychelles, again we have to prepare largely from which perspective? Mapping perspective. Pre-based questions can be asked that Seychelles is located near which of the islands? Which is the nearest island to Seychelles? That is how questions are framed. Which is the nearest island, major island? Madagascar, Mauritius, Reunion also we have discussed in that. That is how we can prepare these. So that's all about this particular week.